Alright guys, what's going on today? We're going to be doing a detailed tutorial on how to play David, because right now he is considered to be the worst support, but he can definitely contend with Cheryl and Sash if he's played right. He is not impossible. I don't think he's as amazing as everyone says he is. He's my favorite support personally, but today we're going to go through it and talk about what makes him great and how to use him. First thing we'll be going through is our build, which this is entirely up to opinion. I've seen a lot of people do different things, but first thing, 4 inch Shems Plus, obvious, and Artful Dodger. Everyone you play should, or every character you have should be to an Artful Dodger, just because it gets you that little bit further and reduces damage just that little bit. Second thing you're going to notice is there's no deep pockets and amulets. That's because I don't believe that I'm going to need them. Those amulets should always be going to the warriors. There's no reason that I should have 6 amulets at one time. Warriors should always be full on shields and full within their pockets. So warriors always get amulets. I don't need any more than 4. Next thing is no packing pop. I don't believe in that because it only helps you in your early game, which is when you need help the least with healing. In your early game, you're going to be looking for those Shems and hopefully going to find them. Otherwise, if you need that, you're probably not in a good place and are going to lose either way. This perk is not going to save you or get you any further than what you would have if you just didn't have it. Next thing is 2 in Wig Splitter. This is important because all supports are great with headshots from the back. It's always been great. 2 in Tougher Than Hell, just for a little bit more damage reduction. David is the defense support. Lastly, a 3 in Ranged, just because when I play David, I tend to rely on my gun more than my melee, because I can't do anything with melee. David is a 1 in melee, as we know, so getting that extra points in range instead is the better choice because he doesn't have any other choice. Next is just fast forward. I think that's great on any character that has it. Next up, we're going to be talking about his abilities. The first one being Beacon of Hope, but we're going to go over that one last as it's his most complicated. First up on the list, we got Soda Pop. While David drinks his Shems, he and all the nearby survivors take less damage for a limited time. Soda Pop is a great perk, especially when you get to Prestige 1 at 3% damage. So, people often assumed that it was bad because he had to drink it before the fight, but obviously the fight is continuous. When you're on an objective, there's no point when you're not going to be taking damage. So, it just automatically happens. There's nothing that you really need to specifically do other than make sure others are around you to get value out of it. David just works. This ability just gets you value naturally. Something to mind though is its duration. It's considerable to, if nobody's below half but everyone's injured, sometimes it is worth it to wait those few seconds to make sure you get the full effect and then use another one to keep getting more of that full effect. Just make sure none of it's wasted. Maximum time of that damage reduction. Next up is Nail Gun. This is tough because right now the Nail Gun is considered the worst weapon in the game because of how manipulatable it is by the demon. Number one thing is if you're going to use this, because there's entirely reasonable to not use it because of Wig Splitter. What I tend to do is I find a hunting rifle and focus with that instead. But if you're going to use this, if you find it absolutely necessary, make sure you mind your fear. Drop it when it's deadly. There's a few times where it has come in clutch for me, but it's not really ever been something that I would want over a hunting rifle. So first we're going to take up a look at Beacon of Hope. It lasts for 30 seconds. reduces fear, no prestige 2.5, and its cooldown is 120 seconds. However, for its full potential to be realized, we also have to take a look at its fourth ability. Increases the range of Beacon of Hope's aura and the infernal energy cost to maintain the possession within the aura. Attacking a possessed unit within that aura reduces the demon's infernal energy. What this is saying is that Beacon of Hope is meant to kick evil units out of the aura, and it's meant to prevent units from possessing within its aura. Let's take a look here at some clips of how it's used. First thing we see is we see me come up and light the fire on the injured survivor. Firstly, it'll help reduce any fear I have, reducing my chance of being possessed, and it interrupting me while I am picking them up through a possession. Secondly, it'll make it harder for any units around it to be possessed, meaning it is less likely that they'll be able to possess a unit off. As we will see, it does possess a unit, but then this was an effective use of David's ability because the unit that was around me got kicked out through infernal energy. I didn't have to kill it, its energy was wasted, and it was booted out. It prevented my fear from going up and accidentally interrupting the revival, and stopped any other units from being possessed in the area. That is a successful use of David's ability. What we also learned from it is the bottom line here. What its goal is to kick the demon out, prevent it from re-entering another possession, and reduce fear. Those are the three things you're supposed to be doing with his ability. Let's go ahead and look at another clip where it gets just a little bit more complicated. What we see here is him placing a portal. He's also only level 7, meaning that his portals are slightly expensive, and he definitely does not have any infernal energy upgrades. So what we can assume is he just spent about 150 or so points, maybe 125, on that portal. He doesn't have a lot of energy. So we know that this fire is going to work even if it is a power possessed because of how little infernal energy is coming in. Now, while it is possible that we would have survived that off of dodging no matter what, it is also possible that he did have more energy, and that would have been the perfect amount to kick him out. What we did there, though, is we definitely sped up the process of him getting kicked out with how weak he was, and how little energy he had. David is probably the only support that can solo a power possessed like that. Now let's move on to talking about the don'ts of David. The first being using your fire to somehow get rid of a boss. It's more than likely not going to work. The boss is either going to die before it happens, or it's going to take so long to happen that somebody is going to die anyway. It's not going to help you at all when you're trying to get rid of a boss. It's just not. Don't use it solely as a light source. It is a great secondary feature of it, but that is not its intended purpose. If you're just using it as a light source, then wasting that ability's potential. Don't drink a Shemps before the fight to get that damage resistance. The fight is continuous. You don't need to drink before it to get something. It's not going to work. Just wait and let it happen naturally. Once the fire is down and you're on objective, don't leave your ring. You don't have any reason to leave your aura. That fire is going to basically be your lifeline. So when by staying in it, you're going to be 1,000 times safer than leaving it, unless there's a real reason. I mean, there might be a Shemps outside of it you need to pick up real quick, but you want to make sure you and your team are generally almost always in that circle because it is meant to be there to save you. Mind your fear. Don't kill your warrior with your legendary nail gun. You know, just be aware of your fear, and if you need to, drop it. That about wraps up our little tutorial on David. We got some good examples of how to play him. builds, and what his ability is meant to do. So we're gonna end the video here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching.
You have all you need to banish the Dark Ones back to the Deadlands.